What's up, boys? So, currently, right now, it's going to be recap 2. It's going to be for Michael, the European Amateur Championship, whatever. Um, Currently, he just lost his last game, which was he was black, and which sucks. So, hopefully, day 2 is different. And unfortunately, he got black again, which I would be obviously very upset because I want white. His opponent is the 2050, and Michael is 1997. So, let's start off the game. So, Michael starts off with the Coral Khan, and then we get the advanced variation, and we got the short variation, which is Nigel Shorts. Here, funny enough, I do have lines for both white and black here. So after e6, bishop e2, Michael plays c5, which is not a line I do have. I play knight d7. I looked into knight d7, castle, knight to e7, and after knight b82, h6, knight b3, g5. A4, which is one of those little novelties. There is also knight to d3 or to e1 where you can play queen c7 or even c5 right away. I believe it's queen c7 here. But a4 just gives a little bit more problems to black, but a5 just kind of is just you just need to be a little bit accurate. After queen c7, knight d3, and knight g6, bishop b3 and bishop e7. The idea isn't actually to do a kingside attack. The idea is to actually castle kingside and not castle queenside. Just kind of misdirect them. It kind of reminds me of a black lion position. If I show you guys right now, the black lion is from it's kind of like a modern, like knight f6 or the perk, knight c3 and knight d7. And I mean, let's just go on for like the analysis. Let's say like he does this, or basically you play h6, g5, bishop e7, knight to f8. You play knight g6, and you get this position, which is very similar to this position. And I thought this would be very interesting for black, a lot of play. But of course, Michael plays c5, which is still a good move, very forcing, which is something I do like. And his opponent, it's 1 hour and 30 minutes. So you have 90 minutes with 30-second increment. And after move 40, you get an additional 30 minutes. But his opponent takes 20 minutes just to move, just a castle, which is not a good sign. It's move basically 6. And I mean, I'm going to be very critical about this 2050 player. You should not be taking 20 minutes just to castle. And after 97, when I first saw this, I was at work, so I was just looking at it live. I saw 97, I was like, what is 97? I've never seen 97. And funny enough, after c4, knight c6, it kind of transposes. It actually kind of transposed because the main line is actually bishop e3, and then knight to e7 is one of the lines here, where basically, like you want to bring your knight here eventually, and you want to bring your knight to c6. But 97 kind of transposes c4. Again, his opponent took another 30 minutes just to play c4. And it's move 7, and he only has 48 minutes. Michael still has 1 hour and 28 minutes. So not really looking good for the 2050 player. And now Michael plays a very good move, knight c6, knight c3. And now knight c3 is a move I've never seen before. I think this is by far, I believe it's a novelty if I were to actually check. It's not a novelty. Very, very interesting. But like it's something that I've never seen before. One of my lines that I have is actually either d takes c5, and after d4 you have bishop d3, or even queen a4. Or one of my other lines, which is knight a3, which I like a little bit more. Knight a3 with the idea of knight b5, knight d6. So you prevent that with a6. And now you play d takes c5, d4, queen a4, d3, rook d1, knight g6, and bishop e3. And you notice that this bishop is just hanging. It's because of the pin, because of the queen. And after bishop e7, knight c2, it kind of just looks goofy. You got two pieces forked. And after castles, we have bishop takes d3, bishop takes, knight to e1, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5. And now you would probably say, wait a minute, you're only defending it twice. And black is defending it twice, white is attacking it twice. So how are we going to win this piece? Well, we just add another attacker, which is after knight takes d3, queen a3. And now the knight's pinned. And we're just going to win the knight. And we're just going to have a very good position, like very normal position, which I really like. We're going to have a 3-2 majority. This pawn will be lost eventually. But I really like the position. But instead, Michael plays a really good move, which is d takes c4, which I thought a6 might have been decent try, but I think d takes c4 is still good. D takes c5, knight d5, and knight takes, queen takes, and now his opponent plays a really, I think it's a good move. And again, his opponent's taking 20 minutes just for d takes c5. Again, he shouldn't be doing that. Knight d5, queen takes, and queen a4, which for him, practically speaking, that's not a good move because you're low on time. You should trade pieces so you can have a possibility of maybe holding because you're very, very low on time and it's only move 11. You have to make it to move 40 to even get an additional 30 minutes, and 30 minutes isn't a lot especially for you. So queen a4 just doesn't make sense in a practical standpoint for him. And now Michael plays bishop d3, which at first I don't like, and the reason is because of this b4 pawn. And after bishop d3, bishop takes, c takes, b4. Now when I saw this, I was like, wow, what is Michael going to do? Because he's going to have b5, and white doesn't care if he sacrifices 2 pawns. It's because the king's still in the center. He has his king castled, and he has his bishop pair, like his bishop, his knight, his rook. I mean, they're all ready to jump. And I thought, I don't know, I feel like Michael's just kind of forgetting that you should probably focus on castling. Again, this is a line, so I can't really be really critical about him here. But here you should really, really take some time and consider your options. Here, when I thought a6 wouldn't work because b5, and you can't take because the rook's hanging. But actually, a6 actually works after I looked at the engine. You have b5, and this is insane. Knight to a7 was the move I missed. And after pawn takes, we got knight c6. And again, we're going to win the pawn. And, I mean, maybe queen g4, g6 is still fine. But the reason why I thought this b5 move was so good was because the board geometry with queen g4. So when he played bishop b7, it took Michael 2 minutes, which is not good because white has b5. And where does the knight go? Well, back to d8 or b8. Queen goes to g4, and you cannot castle because of bishop h6. How do you defend mate? If you play g6, you lose the exchange. So that's not something you want to play. So you would be forced to play king f8, which is not something you really want to play. But his opponent blunders, and it takes him 5 minutes to blunder, which is bishop d2. So if you're gonna take time, at least find the right move. And he castles, rook f to e1, and then a5, a phenomenal move by Michael, which I really, really liked, just to undermine that queenside majority. After b5, knight to b4, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and bishop takes c5. And now this move is basically having this rook come here. And not only that, it defends the pawn on d3. After queen d2, rook a3. And this is a position where you have to understand his opponent has 1 minute and Michael has 56 minutes. You don't have to play tactically. If you play those one move threats, his opponent with only one response, his opponent will find it because it's easy. It's not that it's easy, it's just that you have to find it. Where if you play a positional move, those little tiny improving moves, your opponent's going to be left with, what do I do here? How do I improve my position? And you only have like minutes on the clock, if not only 1 minute, to figure out how can I improve my position. And rook a3 is just by far a phenomenal move. After rook e to b1, again, I would say this position, black's like -5. And the reason is because this rook is basically out of the game. And what you notice is that this knight on f3 is stuck, basically. This knight ever moves, bishop d4 is coming, winning the rook on a1. This rook is stopping this pawn. This queen is stuck babysitting this pawn. And this rook is just staring at nothing. So basically, black is completely winning here. And Michael again plays a phenomenal positional move, b6. Again, cementing the bishop. Now you noticed those little tiny improving moves. Rook a3, that's an improving move. Stopping the movement of the pawn and putting pressure on it, focusing, making him basically babysit the pawn. b6, cementing the bishop. The bishop is very strong here. Not only that, it prevents the knight from moving, so bishop d4 can be an idea. And not only that, it defends the rook on a3. And now his opponent doesn't have much, so he plays h3 because he doesn't know what to do. And again, Michael does a beautiful move with h6. And I don't think it's like the engine's top choice, but it's those moves that give your opponent trouble. He has 57 seconds. What are you going to do? h6. What are you going to do? You're basically in shoot swan. Anything you do is probably going to actually harm you. And rook b2, rook f to a8, and then king h2. Again, another move that just doesn't, he's just doing moves. And it's actually unimproving his position because this can always come with check. And I thought Michael saw this after bishop d4 and knight takes is forced because it looks like a fork. I thought Michael saw this with queen takes. You got check. And not only that, after the king moves, let's go here, queen takes. We just won a pawn and a knight at the same time. But instead, Michael, it takes him 4 seconds for this move, which I would say there's no excuse to miss a free pawn with check and pick up the knight. And you're gonna see what I mean because those you have 48 minutes, man. You have 48 minutes. He has 38 seconds. Take your time, breathe, control yourself. Queen takes d4 is just not. I mean, it's a good move, but it's not that like his opponent can come into the game. And now rook to e1. Now you have to understand what this move is doing. It's not doing this. It's not doing rook e3, which I believe Michael was thinking. What he's doing is he's trying to activate his very, very passive rook on b2 to b4 because his queen is defending it and transfer it over here on the queen side. Michael, you have to see these types of moves. So in order to stop that, you should bring your other rook to a4. And just prevent it all the way. And a move like, I don't know, you can just keep improving. There's nothing that's stopping you. But after like it's just a small positional grind. But again, Michael just plays rook e8 thinking that rook e3 is the move, but actually rook b4. And again, Michael has to move. And if this pawn wasn't here, it would be a little bit more easier to maybe maneuver itself to the king side where you need to take care of the king. But queen to c5 and then rook g4. And now another move that Michael should really, really focus on is, okay, since your rook activated itself, why don't I just play rook d4? Rook d4 to make him a little bit less active. And if you were to move, let's say, to rook g3, I think after rook g3, so rook g3, now you can go to king f8. But you're improving your position just slightly. It's just those slightly small little moves that you should be looking at. But again, king f8 is played, still a fine move, but I think you're giving him too much activity. Queen f4. And now that's the reason why rook d4 was much better, because it prevents the queen from infiltrating on the king side. And after pawn to d2, I think Michael kind of jumped the gun on that. He did take 5 minutes on this move, but I don't know. D2 is definitely a little bit risky because rook to g7. And again, this is a little bit scary because if king takes, queen check, king goes, anywhere, you got, you just won the rook and you're going to win the pawn. So you can't take. And after d2, rook takes g7, queen to c7. White has a very, very difficult move, very difficult move that he can do, which would be actually queen takes to h6. Queen takes h6 can be very difficult to spot. Here, I believe it's still like very difficult. But, I mean, it just seems interesting. Or another move that you can even try. You can even try, like, how about, like, rook e4? After queen c7, rook e4. I'm just throwing moves out there for white just to make black's position just horrid. And, again, a move like this, queen check can always come. So, queen takes is the idea. It's a very dicey position, and maybe white can just somehow weasel his way into a draw. I don't know. But his opponent, again, plays very passively. He needs to be thinking about active moves. What he was doing here, he was playing actively. Even though he was losing, he's still playing actively. And the more active an opponent is, the more options it gives you to slip up. So that's why a move like rook to d8 is just uncharacteristic of the position, because you're just playing actively. You need to play actively. Rook d8 is not doing anything. You're just focused on defending. A move like king f8, again, not playing actively. You should be playing rook d4. But again, I can't be like so critical about Michael just because this. I mean, I'm not the one playing. It's just a very difficult position for him. Queen f4, and then he played d2. Rook takes, queen c7, and now it's just basically cleanup here for Michael. He just needs to again. Queen takes should just be in the vicinity. You should just play this. And f4, queen c3. And we still have this. But again, Michael misses that. And eventually Michael conforms himself, and he misses mate with rook takes h3, which is something like it's kind of difficult to spot. Like after queen check, king goes here to h1. Queen h2, queen h to f3, and now you just win the queen with mate. But he doesn't miss the chance to miss it again. Rook takes h3 here, and I feel like this one's a little bit harder to spot. Pawn takes and queen check. If king goes down, now you mate with queen. So yeah, no, definitely a phenomenal game by Michael. I think he just needs to focus on active moves. Just because you're winning doesn't necessarily mean you have you're gonna win the game. You got to play as actively as possible. You got to take away all his counterplay. And this game, you did not take away his counterplay, which could be detrimental in future games. So I hope you and wish you the best. Okay, Michael? Good luck tomorrow.